Coach, hey, thank you very much for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. I know spring season recruiting really picks up right about now, so really do appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. It's been, like I said, it's been fun to listen to some of your other interviews and appreciate you reaching out. And, hopefully we can share a little bit of our story here at Scranton.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And looking forward to it, obviously. So let me just start out. I mean, you've been I didn't realize this, but you've been a head coach since 1999 at Scranton. So you have a history at Scranton of success, like all sorts of success. And I guess I would just say, what's the experience been like in that time frame? And probably more interestingly enough for me is like, what was your journey to get you to the position you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, the journey was very interesting. I graduated Lycoming in 1998, so I was in this position 23 years old, and I worked for a year out of college in a fundraising position. And my high school coach, his brother was the athletic director here at Scranton at the time, and their coach at the time had left for another job, and it was a part-time position at the time. So I had a conversation with my high school coach, and he said, "Oh, what do you think about college coaching?" And I was like, never thought of that in my entire life. So I said, "Oh, I'd look into it," and came up here. I think the late spring of 1999, and met with the AD and the women's coach Joe Bochicchio and the previous coach Steve Klingman, who kind of put Scranton soccer on the map. He was an administrator at the time, so was able to, I guess, convince them that I'd be a good fit, and started in the fall of 1999 as a part-time coach, and it's kind of evolved from there. And certainly the position has changed dramatically from when it was a part-time position. Where now, I'm full-time. I have a full-time assistant, so the change has been quite dramatic in a lot of aspects of my time here in the last 23 years. So,
yeah. When did it go full-time for you?
Ooh. I think it was like 2003, I think.
Okay, so yeah.
It was still a very, very small salary, yeah. So yeah. It was a full-time in your commitment, and still kind of a part-time wage, but just a chance to have benefits and that kind of stuff was great. And being able to spend like all your focusing time was on the job, where you didn't have to worry about working another job during the day and then coming to practice and things like that. So,
yeah. So, I mean, relatively, I'll just say it, new coach, right? Like you hadn't had this experience of working for folks on over a longer period of time. But so who's had the biggest impact on you as a coach and how you want to be or aspire to be or work?
Yeah, I think early on, I probably not as much as like inspired me to be a coach, but inspired me to like enjoy my passion of soccer was my high school coach. He was someone that just loved soccer too. He was a Princeton grad that played Division I soccer, and when I got to know him and our relationship, it gave me the platform to just love soccer, and it gave me, it was okay to really, really be passionate about it. And, he had a lot of belief in me. And then when I came here, I certainly had a really great relationship with Joe Bochicchio, who was our women's coach at the time. I mean, he treated me as, part of his family. And of course, Steve Klingman was another one I grew, had a great relationship with him, and I still do. He's still on staff here as a member of the administrative team or as our facilities team. So I get to see him quite often. And Those two guys growing up as a young coach were there a lot for me, and learned a lot from them. Joe, I mean, I shared an office with Joe for a long time, and just to see someone who's a pretty accomplished coach continue to want to learn and grow as a coach, and I was really looked at that, and was I took a lot of inspiration from him as someone who always was still driven to improve, even though he had national caliber program, and he just didn't necessarily sit in his laurels and hope the good players came to him. He was very active in improving himself as a coach and learning tactics. And more recently, and it might sound a little corny, but my wife is a big inspiration as well, and she sets a high level here at the university with her program, and her work rate and how she manages her team is pretty impressive. So we obviously are always talking about soccer and team management tactics and stuff, so certainly take a lot from her as well.
Yeah, I mentioned to you, like, I'm speaking with her, I think, in the first week of May when her spring season is over. So really looking forward to that conversation as well. Hey, so I've asked this from a couple of coaches and who've been in the game for a very long time. Where I'll just say, front line in the game, right? You as a head coach. I'll first ask, from a player perspective, is there a difference between the players you recruited when you first started to now? Are they better? Has there been an evolution of the play, the smarter? I don't know.
I think players now certainly are exposed to a lot more, I guess, high level environments in regards to, MLS Next and ECNL and National League. I think the travel to play in these regional events, regional playoffs, has certainly developed, I guess, um, a higher level of commitment, I guess, when it comes to that club environment. I think for me, like when I remember looking at kids, students, 20 years ago, and what I look at now, not too much changes for what I want in regards to the grittiness, the guys that like to grind, that are self-motivated, super competitive boys that, want to be put in an environment where they're challenged, can they handle being outside their comfort zone, and knowing that you're just not going to just be a soccer player here, or you're just not going to be a student. We want you to take advantage of everything the university has to offer. I think the dynamic of college soccer Division III has, I don't want to necessarily say it's become an arms race, kind of like how Division I is looked at times, but I think a lot of promotion on social media, and you see what other teams are doing at the Division III level, and I think it only helps make the game better. Obviously keeps you on your toes as a coach to make sure you're going out and recruiting the highest level student athlete that you can get. And I don't think the evolution of where we are is in the recruiting of student athletes is a bad thing. I think it's made the game better. I think you see more tactics involved, a lot more analytics and video, and so I'd see changes in that way, but not necessarily what we look for.
I keep saying to myself, in terms of the arms race in Division III soccer, one of the videos that I want to do is just on the importance of, I'll just, for in air quotes, schools having their own soccer stadium now, or some soccer facility that is dedicated to them. When I was playing, we had our own field, but it was like a wavy, muddy. And now, and as I go around visiting different schools, I mean, these are the facilities you look at. I'm like, I know lower division teams in Europe would kill for some of the
Oh yeah,
facilities that the schools have, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. I think too that when, especially at the Division III level, a lot of athletics is driving enrollment. You know,
mhm,
the administrators, the presidents of universities know that, you know, to get students to come to play in their sports to help with their enrollment, they have to provide investment into the athletic facilities. And, you know, and I think that's again why you're seeing new facilities pop up
yeah,
all the time at Division III. And,
yeah,
you know, certainly in our conference in the last 10 years, there's been new facilities built, and you're playing on some of the nicest facilities in the region when you play in the
yeah.
landmark. So, and even in a non-conference in our region, so excellent facilities you get to play on. So,
And I think your alma mater, like Coming, just announced that they were, I don't know if it's a new field or they were enhancing what was there.
yeah,
But the, um,
yeah, they recently added lights, which, you know, when you think about it, you know, 2 years ago, I think they added lights as part of like phase 1, and
mhm.
now they're adding some locker rooms and seating, which
Yeah, yeah,
would be a really nice enhancement there at the school. And the field stays the same. They've added
yeah,
turf. When I played, it was grass, and
yeah,
but yeah, they'll have a nice little setup there.
yeah. Hey, so let me ask you that the follow-up to that is, do you think the game has changed in your time? Like, has it gotten better or different?
Yeah, I think it's gotten better. I think there's a lot more tactical um, approaches to games. I think with video and scouting, teams are preparing more and more for opponents. You obviously have the ability to do your own breakdown and improve your teams. I think the technical side of the game is drastically improved. You know, the amount of soccer student athletes are playing in high school and in the club level allows them to be in an environment that improves their technical ability. So I think you're seeing, in my opinion, I think, you know, whether, you know, you're a right back, center back, the technical ability has to be at a very, very, very high level to be successful in these days, where maybe in the years past it was, if you know, the athleticism maybe was the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly a growth in the tactical side of things, and then the technical piece for me.
Yeah. Um, let me just shift. Because I started asking this because I never really thought about it, right? In regards to the COVID year. I mean, I've been for 5 years or so, 6 years, I work from home. So this has been my space. So when COVID hit, it wasn't a big deal. Like, how difficult was that lockdown COVID year, spring that was trying to replace the fall? How tough was that on you, your program, your players?
Yeah, I find at the time, I mean, it was extremely challenging at the time, um, just because you couldn't be together as a team. You know, boys, the seniors that year, um, you know, they had their season taken away, and they wanted to compete. And you know, you're bringing a freshman class in that you're trying to integrate into the team, and you're limited to non-contact small group sessions, and you can't meet with your team pretty much outside of practice. So your ability to develop the chemistry, the morale, the culture of your team, I think, you know, from my perspective, really was a challenge. I think it really affected us, you know, longer term, because when we played in the spring, which was nice, we had games. Usually, the spring season is a way for you to cultivate your next group of leaders and
Yeah.
develop that group morale as you go and prepare for, you know, the following fall. And because the seniors were still playing in that year with that small group, or the four game season, we didn't have that time to really develop the next group, and it was all about like focusing on those 4 games. Let's make this experience for those seniors in this group of boys that we have the best we can. You know, we approached it as a way that we wanted everybody to play in the games. So, you know, everyone was going through COVID, dealing with, you know, the stress and the complexities of it. And so our approach was we want everybody to play in the games. Um, you know, we certainly want to win them, but our focus was more on getting the boys out there and letting them play and enjoy and getting some experience of playing college soccer. So
Yeah, it's like I said, I never really thought about it until I forget who brought it up. Like, you should ask me. Oh, I think it was Dan Wagner at Franklin and Marshall. Is like, ask me about COVID because it was hard, and I just was like, what? Like, it never really changed for me. So
yeah, and you had juniors this fall. Juniors were that was one season. They played 1 year college soccer, and now it's fun. This spring it's been nice to kind of start building our group and our leaders and just kind of setting the standard. Just giving our chance to. What are our standards? What are our expectations? Two guys, our younger players who really maybe didn't get that enough.
Yeah.
So,
someone made the comment, like, it's basically we have a second year freshman on this team who have never, the sophomores are second year freshmen in that they never had a season. They didn't have a freshman season, so they're all new to this.
100%. It's to me, hits a nail on the head with that one. And one of our sophomores was in the office the other day, and they were talking about registering for classes, and he's like, "I'm registering as a junior." And I'm like, "That's right. Like, you're a junior already. We only had you for one season," and it's like, so it kind of hits you there, and it's like, wow. So, and it's unfortunate because those freshmen just, we had a lot of. We had done a great job recruiting, I think, and they just didn't have a chance to really get themselves acclimated. But it's fun to see them now really coming into their own and taking a little bit bigger role in the team and seeing them mature into leaders and having that confidence that they're going to play a bigger part going forward. So
I've heard a lot. It's like, if anything, if there's a positive that came out of it all, is everyone's appreciation for the game has jumped because it was taken away, and they didn't realize, like, we could just play, and right? And now they're like, we could play again. This is great. So
for sure.
Hey, this is a little bit of an oddball question, but I mean, because I always look for the secret sauce, and there never is a secret sauce, but I always look for it anyhow.
Sure.
To make me a better cook. Is there anything to maintaining a successful program over time? Like, you're 22 years of coaching. I mean, you've been,
Yeah. Over the years, you obviously learn a lot, and you get experiences from other coaches and other programs. And, I think for me, I'm someone, I like to say that I'm someone that is big on healthy and developmental culture in a program, making sure your standards are always shared and known. I think to be consistently talking about your culture with your team, holding the standards high, allows you to be as consistent as you can, because you can't really control the winning and losing as much as you'd like, but you can control what your message is to your team. What is the expectation of being a Scranton men's soccer player? And I think that allows you to, continue to have some sort of consistency. For us, I think the consistency could be better on the playing side of things, and we've had some years where we probably haven't been where we wanted to be. And when you look back at, I don't necessarily think it was the soccer, maybe our culture wasn't talked about enough, and what the standards were. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And you look at the teams that are successful in the Division III, I think that's a very prominent piece of their success. When you think of, you mentioned Wags at F&M, like, what you're getting from his team every year as an opponent. Like, we play them quite often, and it's been on the sidelines for their NCAA games as a rep. You know what you're getting, and I think he's someone, along with a lot of other coaches, that have that consistent message to the team and what the level's like, the expectations. And again, I'll use my wife's team too. She has a certain level that she wants. It's communicated, and you bring in certain players that fit that, and that allows you to, I think, not necessarily fall back on your culture, but rise up your culture. And then like the players, then if you bring some special players in, they help obviously. And then I think you can get more out of players too that have a buy into your culture as well. So
I totally agree. I think culture is definitely is the springboard to anything that you accomplish or don't accomplish, right? Because it could just easily go sideways, or it's just not a focus. But
and I think too, like when you're a program that may not win as consistently, and you have like 1 or 2 good years, you get excited that we finally got to that level, and then maybe I mean, I know for me, when I look back, like the years that we won, and then the next year maybe we dipped. It's like, well, maybe we just got a little happy and we weren't pay attention to the details enough, and those are the things I think for at least my program for us is being more consistent with that aspect of things. So.
Hey, another thing I started to ask is, I gather you've heard the whole substitution changes. Any thoughts on them? And if there, is there an impact on how you would sub if that were the case?
Yeah, I mean, I've been following it pretty closely. I was actually on the phone maybe about a month ago with Brandon Bianca, who you had on, just to kind of talk to him because he's our rules committee chair. And I don't like where the substitution rule is going. I actually think I'd love to have a re-entry in the first half. But I think it'll be interesting if it goes down to taking away that re-entry rule and in the second half. And I think again, Division III, we talked about participation and enrollment-driven institutions for athletics, and if this gets voted in, I mean, the need for a coach to carry 30, 32 kids on a team where you're only going to play 15 or so, and knowing these boys aren't going to get into games. So, or if you're deep enough, can you play, you make a lot more substitutions and a lot more guys play. So, because you could do it that way as well. But,
I guess I wonder, and even at the Division I level, like, what's the point? Like, I don't what is it a solution in search of a problem, right? Like, I don't understand why it was. I get the timing, like people coming in making subs, but that's the referee's job to.
Yeah. I mean, I think because right now what rules apply to 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And Division I's making the push towards this 21st century model, and they want to try to align things, more in the pro aspect, but also in regards to student health, welfare, and things like that, which is justifiable and understanding. And I think that, like, I hope at some point each division has an autonomy to make decisions on their own.
Yeah. Oh,
what applies to them doesn't necessarily need to apply to us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's
But I also think too that from talking to Brandon, like Division I has a clear idea of majority of their coaches what they want.
Yeah.
And in Division III soccer, I think the not the perception, but the opinions vary all over the place. So there's not enough like one way or the other, and so
I think it's interesting too, right? Like, and I'm just a numbers guy at times. Like Division I is driving this, right? And comparison to Division III, which isn't driving this, Division III has 4 times the number of players, in the division, and twice the amount of schools, and anyhow.
Yeah, Division I has 2 votes and we have 1, so that's kind of where we're up when it comes to the voting policy. So
I'm not sure I understand that one, but whatever.
yeah,
I'm
me
not.
neither. So
Yeah, that's not a discussion for here. That's for sure. We're not going to resolve that. Hey, do you have? Are there any not like I call them non-negotiables if someone's going to be a part of your program?
yeah, I mean, we want boys here that are high character guys that know that they're coming into a program in a situation where you're going to be asked to be more than just a soccer player and a student. There's a certain self motivation factor that you have to have at Division III, and we obviously can't be with the team a whole lot in the off season. So boys that are very self driven, self motivated to be successful, you see that obviously in their academic pursuits and how they are in their recruiting, how you are when you interact with them. Certainly that to me checks the box. Number one is what kind of character you, not necessarily like I need to make that evaluation in our recruiting process. And we use our student athletes on campus to meet with our players or our recruits or potential prospective student athletes, and how do they fit into what we want to do. And I find it here at Scranton, it's very interesting that there's so many players that know each other. So, we'll have boys on the team that we'll say, oh, we're looking at the student. And, oh, I know him. And they, I'll reach out to him. I'll talk to him. He's a great kid, and then you use, we obviously follow up with club coaches and high school coaches to figure out what kind of player they are, what kind of student, what kind of character boy they are. So that's a big thing. So,
and now just from a pure coaching perspective, and I'm curious about it just because of the the compressed schedule and how difficult it probably is do you prepare for individual teams as they come along in your schedule, or do you sort of say, all right, this is Scranton soccer, this is how we play, and I don't want to say be damned what the other team does, but this is how we want to play?
I mean, we certainly play the way we want to play, and it's a very defensive, urgent type of play. We want to make it hard for teams to beat us, and but we certainly watch a ton of film on our opponents. We provide scouts to our team about our upcoming opponents. It may be 15 or 20 minutes, but we make sure we focus on key players, set pieces. Us as coaches, spend more time kind of looking at the tactical side of things, but yeah, we don't change a ton. We might, if we're playing a team that we maybe need to drop in a little bit more, or we can maybe press a little bit higher, we can make those adjustments. But we'll stick to our same, tactical setup and our system setup, game to game. So it just might be a little tweaks here and there.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to be able to make too many changes to your tactics if you would basically be changing it every 2 days, right? Like, okay, we're going to play this. Oh, no, we're going to play that way. It can't be too easy to coach players that way.
I think keeping things simple and straightforward with the team, and as a base, this is what we ask, and then can you expand a little bit more? But we don't change game to game, and we try to keep it simple, and not necessarily like not allow the players to have to like think more, but we just want to try to keep it simple for them and keep it consistent, and so they know how to execute when the time comes.
Hey, so with everything that went on with COVID and all of that, you basically a year and a half of just sort of up in the air. What were your expectations going into the fall?
Yeah, I mean, we had a very optimistic expectations going into the fall. We always feel like we're in a position that we can win the conference championship, and that was our goal. We usually say like qualify for the playoffs, we can win the conference, and that's how we approach every year. We knew we'd be very good defensively with basically our back six, what we had coming back, our back five. We knew be very, very good. The question from the beginning was kind of like, where are the goals going to come from? And that was our challenge all year. So I didn't think it would be, I don't want to say as difficult as it was to score goals, but that ended up being like obviously the big hurdle
Yeah.
throughout the season. We knew we could compete with most teams defensively, and if we had a very strong goalkeeper who we knew would make big saves for us. Our back four were fantastic, and with King and Jake Neubermeyer, our center backs, like we were pretty strong. We felt like we had two of the best center backs in the region, and
Right.
they drove the bus. Like they, were the backbone of us, our
Yeah.
defensive strategies, and how we knew we could keep competing in games. So
Yeah. What can I ask you, just because I'm good? So you were the goals, obviously, and there's, the games you lost were all, I think all of them except for one were 1-goal games.
yeah.
And was it a case of, just not finding the net? Was it because the, young players, or?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. I think that our front group was either a sophomore or a freshman in most situations, so they hadn't played any college soccer.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we had a senior that played as our attacking center mid. This was his first year as a starter, so he had played in a lot of games prior to that, but not as a starting role. So just I guess that group's ability to execute and understand like how hard it is to score
Yeah.
goals, and
Yeah.
we certainly had some talented players, and you know there was some games where it was like we created chances, we hit posts, and it
Yeah.
was kind of like, when are one of these goals just gonna
Yeah.
go in for us?
Yeah.
And I think as the season continued to go on, we started the season really well. We were, I think, 3-1-1 after 5 games. We had 2 games canceled, one for COVID, one for the hurricane. So I think those 2 games hurt us in regards to building our team. That
Momentum.
was the
Yeah.
first game of the season, and I think our third one. So, but then the games with the lack of goals, just the pressure kept building, especially
Yeah.
through the conference games, and
Yeah.
everyone starts to get a little bit tighter and tighter as the games go on. So, but we went into obviously the Moravian game set, last game of the season, knowing that we could still get in, and
Yeah.
we just lost a heartbreaking game, and they
Yeah.
scored. We were up 1-0, 20 seconds left, they tied it, and we obviously went for it in overtime because we needed to win, and they
Yeah.
scored in overtime,
Yeah.
and that was tough. But
Yeah.
our focus after that, we'd only given up 10 goals at that point, and
Yeah.
we figured out that we had the landmark conference record for goals against in a season.
Yeah.
So we said, all right, we're going into E-Town. We obviously can't win or make it to the playoffs, but our goal was to
Yeah.
get that record, and we went in there, and we were fortunate enough to. We didn't win the game, but we didn't give up the record, and that was a lot of pride in our defending group.
Yeah.
And our seniors wanted that, so it's a little bit of a consolation, but something we can hang our hat on after a pretty challenging season.
I actually watched that game last night, the Elizabethtown game.
Yeah.
And I will say, you could just tell there was a difference when you were defending. How I think there was a lot more coordination defensively
Yeah.
than there was on the attack. I don't know if
Yeah,
that makes sense, but it just
it's fair.
seemed a little bit more haphazard on the attack.
Yeah, we struggled in that getting rhythm going forward. That was for whatever reason it was, but certainly our defending was something we spend a lot of time on, and a veteran group that knows how to defend and what we want, and I think we take a lot of pride in how we defend. So
yeah. And then aside from the fact that it reminded me of some of the games I played in the 80s, which was just a mud pit. And
oh yeah, the women actually played before us, so they played their game, and so that and it had rained all the way a couple of days up leading up to it, so we knew what we were getting into.
Yeah. I say it's funny, like I don't, because so many teams now play on turf. Like playing on grass, even good grass, is a challenge for teams because they're not accustomed to the grass, right? Like,
yeah, 100%. I mean, Elizabethtown's the only team in the conference with grass. And,
Mhm.
if I think back, I'm not sure we played any other games on grass
Yeah.
all season. So, but,
It is what, yeah.
it is what it is,
Yep, yep. What, what surprised you the most about the season, about your team?
Probably how much we struggled, probably getting forward and scoring goals is the big surprise. And, I certainly knew that who was going to step up and score goals was the question. It was kind of, didn't expect it to be as challenging as it was.
Yeah.
Not that I'm surprised at like how we just kept at it throughout the season, even as we moved on and things became more of a challenge. And but our guys' determination to end things on a positive note was great, because they easily could have been the heck with it, like.
Yeah.
But that was great, and I think that's a testament to our culture and our leadership that we had in the team.
Yeah.
So.
It is true. Like you can get on a roll, either a winning roll or a losing roll, and the losing roll ends up at some point for a lot of teams in quitting, right? Like they're just sort of like,
Yeah.
you know what, whatever. And I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, the game against Elizabethtown, I clearly you don't see that, right? Like I get it was a struggle, but
Yeah.
guys were definitely in it. Just from a leadership perspective, you mentioned, your goalkeeper, Jake Kudlowski, Brendan King in the back, and then Jake Neubermeyer, who was the landmark defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
How important were they for your team?
I mean, they're huge. We're lucky that King's coming back as a senior. He's really taken on a role in the offseason as our point person, our leader. He's a very disciplined young man in everything he does, and him and the other members of our leadership council are really setting a really good tone for our off-season workouts and expectations. But our two Jakes, Nubs and Hod, were the tone setters for the fall, and they wanted to win so badly. They were literally doing anything they can to keep the team motivated and moving forward. And I mean, game in and game out, you just watch their desire and desperation to score goals, whether it's on set pieces or for Jake to make the big save in the goal. Like, it's something that was just so invaluable to the team, and for us as coaches, we knew what we were getting out of them, and what we got out of them set the tone for the team every day. So they're just immense characters in the team last year.
Yeah. You need those guys too, right? Like, I mean, they just make your job that much easier when you have guys that are basically, taking what you want to the team and sort of driving them to be better.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what you want out of your leaders, and that allows, that gives you the opportunity to be successful. It doesn't guarantee you're going to win or be successful, but I think when you have that buy-in from the top down, it certainly gives you that opportunity to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Hey, so this all sort of bizarrely started off on some boards on d3soccer.com. And so I make it a habit now of, hey, going to the boards and saying, oh, these two I'm talking to, anybody have any questions? And I got this question from, I don't know him, but NEPA fan. He's got a Scranton.
Yeah, NEPA fan. That's how they say it around here, NEPA.
Yeah, NEPA. Oh, that makes more sense. So he asked a couple of questions, but the first one he asked is if you could talk about your incoming class to what we were talking about as it relates to offensive power. You had a great defense last year and were unable to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously that was our main focus in this recruiting group. I think overall, we have a bigger group coming in than we traditionally have, but I feel like top to bottom, we've got a great goalkeeper coming in, two good center backs. We've addressed basically top to bottom for the immediate future next fall. And then obviously these boys are going to be a foundation, I think, of for years to come. You know, we did secure a couple of really promising attacking players that we think can come in and make an impact. Certainly, how they transition to the college game is always the
big question mark.
The big question, but we really like the group. We're excited to get them here in the fall. They've been fun to recruit. Our players and our incoming guys are already getting to know each other through some interactions on campus and through just calling each other and staying connected through social media. So, yeah, we're really, really excited. And, you know, obviously we hope that, you know, we can answer some of the attacking issues with just a whole year together and adding some other players into the team. So,
yeah.
We also expect some of our returners to play a bigger role. So we've got some young guys that got some experience, and, you know, looking at them coming into the off season, we've got some, you know, some expectations for them and think they can be serious contributors as well.
Yeah, that's true, right? Like the evolution of it, right? You bring in the new guys, and then you have these guys that, I don't want to say that, you know, maybe they end up stepping up right into that.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next, right? I think that's.
Well, I think that's what's fun about the off season and probably what we missed with COVID. You know, these guys that these students that are in the team now, they get this opportunity to kind of come into. You see their confidence go up because they know they have the opportunity to play a bigger role, and you know, you're in an environment in the spring where it's not that pressurized. You're not in the daily grind of a season, and you can kind of grow and see these guys mature and, you know, see them on the field to take bigger roles and be more confident in their play. So it's fun and encouraging to see that.
Yeah. Hey, so I mean, with everything back to normal, air quotes, you know, do you have early expectations for the fall, or is it still too early?
I mean, you know, again, we want to win the conference. You know, we want to be able to compete for that championship. So again, we really don't change like our expectations in regards to being a playoff contender and trying to win that landmark conference championship. I think that drives the players. That's what drives, you know, the coaches. We want to win, and you know, that's our focus. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, so from NEPA fan again, which is an interesting question because, again, we were talking about this before I started recording, is the arms race and the importance of facilities now, and especially soccer facilities. But and I didn't know that your old field was really narrow or whatever, small, and so he just asked about how the new facility impacts recruiting, and I won't ask the goals of the year because you already mentioned those. But yeah, how important is your stadium to you from a recruiting perspective? And I will say, as an aside, hoping maybe it's next week, I might be up there with my son to take a look, and so I definitely want to go there. So
yeah, I mean, the addition of the Kevin P. Quinn Athletic Campus has been, you know, a game changer for a lot of us. I mean, first of all, for our softball and baseball, they have the fields there now where they were playing off campus before, and the Weiss Field for us has been, you know, it's been key in our recruiting process. We feel like we have one of the best, you know, facilities in the region. You know, it's 120 by 75. We have seating for about 800 or 900 fans, press box. Locker rooms are right on site as well. So it's a very convenient for the student athletes to kind of call it their home in the season. They leave their gear obviously right in the locker room, showers, and for visiting teams, it's very easy too. They don't have to go to campus. They can come right to the field. But when you bring a student athlete on our campus and take them down to Weiss Field and they walk it, and so many of them are taking pictures of it when they're there, and so it has been a really, really big piece. I mean, prior to Weiss, you know, I kind of hope that students didn't ask to see the field because it was a great atmosphere to play in with the train behind and the compactness of it. But It wasn't, the ideal recruiting piece.
Yeah.
But Weiss has been awesome for us. We love it.
Just from that recruiting perspective, what, do you recruit the position or do you recruit players? Are you looking for guys who are really good just playing, doesn't matter the position? Or are you saying I need a left back or a center mid or?
Yeah, we're looking for great soccer players, but you have to look at the positions, especially when it comes to what you're losing and who's graduating. You have to address those on a positional basis. There are certainly players that maybe we recruit as a center midfielder that maybe they're not going to get into the center mid. Can we play him as an outside back or find another position for him? Because they're a good enough player, they might be able to contribute in another manner. So, but we are looking for, target forward. We want to target, that's what we're looking for. So,
the kids that you recruit out of high school, what do you think their biggest challenge is coming into college soccer, right? Because it's nothing like they've ever experienced, right?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. One of your other interviewers mentioned this, and I think for me, the two biggest things are, number one, they're throughout high school and club more than anything, they're playing in their age bracket. So they're playing, if they're 17, they're playing against 17-year-olds, maybe an 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
They come to college, they're playing against a 22-year-old, maybe a grad student that's 23. So that piece there, I think, is a big thing, a big part of their adjustment. And then I just think that experience of you're coming to a new environment where you have to be on task for your academics. You have to be on task for competing at a high level for your sport. And you're doing it without your support group of your family that's been a part of it. Your new family is here to help you, but you're, as a false student athlete, you're thrown kind of into the den of lions, and you got to be on task right away. And I think that is probably the biggest challenge. Some are obviously better or maybe more prepared for it than others, but you talk to the students in their first week of class, and we have them in for meetings, and their first 2 weeks, everything's great, feel good, and then you can just tell maybe for week 4 or 5, like something's changed in them because every professor's scheduled a test, and and you just kind of see like the stress building a bit, and we're 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season, and that stuff you just start to see that. I just think it's that experience, nothing that they can really control, but I think more players are prepared on the tactical and technical side than they've ever been. It's just more of that transitioning into being a college student.
And it's, I hate to say it, there's nothing you can do, right? Like to prepare them for it. It's just, they got to go through it.
Yeah.
I forget what coach always used to say, like the best thing to a freshman is that they become a sophomore, right? And it's because of all those growing pains go away. But
yeah, and I think that's sometimes you see too, like even after their first semester, we see these second semester, freshmen, they're more confident now. They're comfortable to a certain degree of what their role is and how things go. So I think that's where you see a little bit of growth more than maybe, if they're not, if they're having a little bit harder time, I guess, their first semester. So
hey, so my last question for you, because I know, like I said, you're probably busy and don't want to take up all of your morning, but what's the best way for somebody to get your attention that they're interested in Scranton?
Yeah, not much different than many of the other coaches, but an email, expressing your interest. The text of the email should obviously include that you know something about our university and about our soccer program. Include your academic grades, what you want to study, and obviously the soccer piece, where you're playing, what club team you're on, and if there's video, whether it's full games or clips that you can send us, that's a big piece. And then that constant communication of where you're going to be playing, come visit campus, get to one of our ID clinics. Those are big parts of our recruiting process. So,
are you big into are your ID camps a big? I don't know. big deal, I guess, from a recruiting perspective.
Yeah, they are. They're a big piece. We traditionally do 2 in the summer, 1 in the winter, and we get about 150 students that come through those. So it allows us to spend more time with a prospective student athlete than maybe a half at a showcase. But we use our current students a lot in our ID clinics, so they're spending a lot of time with these prospective student athletes, and they're getting to know them. We do Q&As with them, so they're a big part of it for sure.
Okay. So just so you know, I usually just sort of scour your website, and anything like the men's soccer website, I'll throw if there's camp information, I throw camp information in the description. Yeah, other than that, I just want to thank you for your time today. I really, really do appreciate it. And hopefully we could connect up in Scranton here in like I said, next week. Yeah, we could chat then.
Yeah, appreciate it. I appreciate you providing a platform for Division III men and women's soccer coaches to share their stories. And I think there's a lot of great stories out there to be told. And I think Division III soccer is just a special place. And you can see that in a lot of the interviews you have, but just the nature of Division III, I think, is a wonderful place to be and a wonderful place for student athletes to grow as young men and women. So any kind of little platform we can use to share those stories and share the Division III story is great. So much appreciated.
No, thank you. All right, Coach.
All right.
That was awesome.
All right. Thank you very much.